Hi guys, it's Dr. Jen Caudle, and welcome back to the Be Your Own Doctor Health series because, well, sometimes you just gotta be your own doctor. I'm so glad you joined me today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to make sure you keep getting updates from my channel. All right, today I'm talking about something that's super personal to me, but I've talked about before, and I really felt compelled to talk about it again, and that is freezing my eggs. Yes, I froze my eggs. I actually froze my eggs 2 times in my late 30s, and I wanted to take you through the process. So if you're like me and so many of us, you've probably actually seen a lot of ads for egg freezing out there lately. I see them on Facebook. I see them on Instagram. I see articles about egg freezing almost, I feel like, every day in the news. But more than that, we're also hearing stories about women who are freezing their eggs more now than ever. And also women that are having babies later in life. Tamron Hall was just on the cover of People magazine saying that she had a baby at the age of 48. And so many other women that have talked about kind of the things that they've done and the techniques they've used over the years to be able to have a child. So that's why I figured it was time to come back and talk about my journey again. That and, my mom has lately been talking more about babies and when are you going to settle down and when are you going to find a nice boy? And I was cleaning out some drawers in my place, and I actually found some old syringes that I used to use when I was in the process of freezing my eggs, and they brought back a lot of memories. Now, you guys know that I'm a family doctor, but I'm also really open about my life. For example, when I was freezing my eggs, you might have seen my Facebook Live that I did about the process. Actually, I did a Facebook Live on the morning that I was going for my egg retrieval. I was super nervous, but I just sort of put it out there. Many of you know me from the Steve Harvey show when I went on the Steve Harvey dating pool. I was kind of like the Bachelorette, and I was looking for love, and I picked a guy. We went out on a date. It didn't work out, but many of you know that I have been looking for love and put myself out there. So I initially was very skeptical and was actually offended when it was suggested that I freeze my eggs. Actually, it was family members. Some of my family members were like, "Oh, Jen," and this was some years ago. They're like, "Oh, you should freeze your eggs," and I was like, "You think I can't get no man? What, you think I can't have no baby and get a man?" I was offended because I felt like my family was saying that they didn't have any hope in me or hope for me, and that my only chance of possibly having a baby, because I was never going to get a man, perhaps, was to freeze my eggs. Now, of course, that couldn't have been further from the truth, but that's how I felt at the time. And it wasn't until some months later, I happened to be out to dinner with an old childhood friend. She lived on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and we were talking about things, and I just said, "Oh, you'll never believe what some of my family members said." I said, "They told me I should freeze my eggs. Ha ha ha, isn't that funny?" And she looked at me and she said, "I froze my eggs." And for me, that was when things changed, because I was like, "Wait, what, huh? You did?" And tell me about it. Because here I was feeling offended and feeling insecure and feeling like it was this personal thing that almost like a failure. I felt like I had kind of failed because I hadn't accomplished these goals yet in life. And to hear that someone I respected and trusted and knew very well had done this process, it was actually the thing that pushed me over the edge, over the good edge, which was to look into freezing my eggs. So to that friend out there, you know who you are. Thank you. But that's why I'm talking to you, because maybe you just needed someone to talk to you and tell you that, number one, it doesn't mean you're a failure if you want to freeze your eggs to preserve fertility, because that's what egg freezing does. Egg freezing is the process of extracting eggs so that you can put them in the freezer, put them in the bank, so that when you're ready to try to have a child, that you have more of an option. So it doesn't mean that you're a failure if you haven't found the right person yet to have a baby with, or it's not the right time. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I told you I was cleaning out my cabinets in my house, and I found all these syringes, and you're probably like, what do you do with that? So the basic idea is that it's a process that takes about anywhere from like a week and a half to 2 weeks for most women. And it's a kind of an intense process during that time, but it's not that long. I met with a fertility specialist. I went to a university center on the East Coast. I chose to go to a university center because I do a lot of research at this university. I'm also an associate professor at a medical school. So I just really liked the environment, and I got a lot of good recommendations. But there are a lot of private practices that freeze eggs as well. So I would say what's really important is to shop around. And I say this with finding any doctor. Ask your friends if they've frozen their eggs, who they've used. Talk to different doctors. Ask them questions. Ask them why they're recommending certain things over others. And do your homework. It's not cheap. It's not like going to Starbucks and getting your like daily coffee or whatever. It's going to be pricey in the thousands. Some treatments and some egg freezing costs go anywhere from 15 to 20,000. But I want to say this, that it depends on where you go. That was actually one of the reasons why I went to a university center as opposed to, say, some other practices. Also, keep in mind that insurance companies now are covering more procedures and things like that than ever before. So check with your health benefits plans. And also, there are also payment plans and things like that. So if you're interested in this process, don't let the cost rule it out for you. Of course, I had to have like a pap smear and all of that kind of stuff, lab work and things like that to lay the groundwork and make sure everything was good. But then I was prescribed hormones to take that I actually had to inject myself with, and that's why you see the syringes. So you do have to inject yourself with hormones pretty much daily. And I was actually really scared about that. I mean, I'm a doctor, but it doesn't mean that I like needles. If you've ever, I have a flu shot video on YouTube that I did like a couple years ago. I'm such a chicken. Oh my God. And that was with my nurse giving me a flu shot. So the idea of giving myself shots really kind of scared me, but it's super easy. The nurses at wherever you go will walk you through it, and it doesn't really hurt that bad at all. So the other part of the process is that you're almost checking in daily or every other day with your fertility center. So you're either going in for ultrasounds or you're going in for lab work, and that's so that the doctor can check your levels and see how you're progressing. Remember, the idea is to be able to grow some eggs so that they can be retrieved, and you can put them in the storage in the locker, the freezer, to use them when you want. So I froze my eggs twice, and I did that because I didn't get a lot of eggs the first time, so I did it again. The very first time I froze my eggs, I didn't really have that many symptoms at all. But the second time I did, my first week was fine, but the second week I really started to feel some bloating. I had cramping. I did have some mood changes. I was kind of tearful. I was a little bit like I was just kind of all in my feelings, you know. I just had all these hormones running around. And by the time like it came to egg retrieval time, I really felt a lot of pressure in my lower abdomen because of course that's when your body is actually changing to be able to, you know, produce eggs for them to be retrieved. So those were the symptoms that I was feeling. Let's go back just a step before this, because remember, you say, well, why would I freeze my eggs? When should I freeze my eggs? So I didn't freeze my eggs till my late 30s. And honestly, I probably should have frozen them earlier. When we're younger, our eggs tend to be better, quite honestly. So there's different recommendations about when to freeze the eggs. I mean, it's certainly different for everybody, but if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have done that in my early 30s. So why do we do this? It's the idea of preserving fertility, because it tends to get more difficult to conceive, to carry, to have a child as women get older. We do have biological clocks. So if we're able to sort of capture eggs when we're younger and when the eggs tend to be healthier and, you know, buoyant and in the prime of their lives, you know, the outcomes may be better. And that's the reason why women may choose to freeze their eggs. But there are many other women who choose to freeze their eggs because maybe they're going through a procedure that may make it difficult for them to have children later. Or maybe a woman with cancer wants to preserve fertility before she undergoes cancer treatments if it's going to affect her reproductive organs. There's plenty other reasons why women freeze their eggs, but a lot of times nowadays, this is why young women are doing it. But egg freezing can be a great option and opportunity for women either like me or in a different situation who want to have that option to preserve fertility later on. When I finally went in for the procedure to have my eggs retrieved, you know, each time I did it, and I froze my eggs twice, I was super nervous, of course. You want to get as many eggs as possible because theoretically that increases your chance to have a baby later on. And the more eggs, hopefully the more chances, right? And I just remember going in and I was super, super nervous, but the procedure you don't even remember. You know, I just had a little bit of cramping afterwards. It was super quick. I think the biggest thing I remember after having the procedure was that I was so emotional, and a lot of it had to do with simply the hormones, and that I'd gone through this, like for me, it was this major life decision. So I remember for the first couple of days afterwards, I kind of cried because I cried a lot because I was just emotional. I was filled up with hormones and whatever. So if that happens to you, you're normal. You're totally, totally normal. I pay rent for my eggs once a year. I send in some money. And remember, that's something you're going to want to check with any facility that you use is like, what are the storage fees for the eggs? Because, you know, you have to pay their rent to live there. and just understanding like what the process is. But this is the thing, ladies, don't be afraid of this. And I know it may feel esoteric or abstract. It may seem like this is something that only rich people do, or people with a lot of money, or people of a certain type, but that's not the case. And I want all women to know that there are options out there. I think it's also important as women, like sometimes we feel like we have to be everything. That we have to be a supermodel, we have to be amazing at our job, we have to be a mom, a wife, a this, a that. And the truth of the matter is, we can be whoever we want to be. There are no rules. And I think what's most important is that we find our own individual path. And for some of us, like myself, egg freezing was a really good option. So I definitely want to hear what you think and if you've gone through the process and how it was for you. So definitely let me know, write me, send a message, etc. I want to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I definitely want to hang out with you more. So hit the subscribe button and the little bell to make sure you get updates. Thank you guys so much for joining me and listening to me share my personal story about egg freezing. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.